Deep dives and blue skies. Welcome back to Talking Blue with Nick, the best Dodgers analytical podcast that you can find.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Talking Blue, the best Dodgers analytical podcast that you can find. I'm your host, Nick. Today you're listening to episode 58 of Talking Blue. We're almost in mid-September. Things are going crazy in Dodger land, so we're going to talk about all of that. Of course, as you guys probably know, the Dodgers did not play great this week. They actually played horrible. There was a lot of heartbreakers. We're going to get into all that. So quickly, before I lay out everything that's been going on, let me get into a couple things. First, you can get this podcast on Apple Podcast, on Spotify. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can follow us on all social media at Talking Blue Pod. You can follow myself at Talking Blue Nick. Dropping a lot of stuff on my X, a lot of breakdowns about Mookie, Tanner Scott, Edgardo Henriquez, other players, Shohei. I did a huge thread the other day about Shohei, breaking down how he's changed and how he's gotten better on the mound, all that stuff. I did not recap the Pirates series. That was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. The Dodgers got swept by the Pirates. I'll be honest. That was probably the first time since I've done this podcast, which is, we're currently closing in on year one, season one. That was probably the first time I just didn't feel like doing a podcast. I didn't feel like talking. The Dodgers were playing bad. I had nothing nice to say, nothing good to say, which probably means I should have gone on. But because of the series ended on Thursday night, and then obviously a quick turnaround, the Orioles series started the next day. I said to myself, why not let them play this weekend in Baltimore? Maybe they turn it around. Maybe they sweep Baltimore, win 2 out of 3. I can get on here, recap all of it, have a little bit of better thoughts and stuff like that. That's not what happened. The Dodgers lost 2 out of 3 to Baltimore. Now, they did win the final game, some better things, but there's been so much going on. This has been a rough stretch. I'm going to get into all that. So today is, if you're regular on this podcast, you might remember after the Dodgers got swept by the Angels about a month ago, I got on here, didn't really do any analytical stuff, didn't really do any breakdowns, just talk to you as a heartbroken fan. That's going to be what most of today is. I'm not really going to do any breakdowns. I'm not going to preview the Rockies series that starts tonight. I'm not really going to dive into any of the games. I'm just going to talk about what's been going on and this really difficult stretch if you're someone who follows the team like myself or if you're just a fan, all of that. So it's going to be a little all over the place. If you're here today for some breakdowns, that is not the podcast today. If you're here for some rational thoughts, that won't be today. It's just going to be an emotional fan talking about how sad it is to see the Dodgers struggle. Before we get into all that, quickly, let's just do some injury stuff because some of the injuries, new injuries kind of tie into what's been going on this week. So, of course, the two, kind of big ones are both catchers, Will Smith and Dalton Rushing. Will Smith, I think it was in Game 2 against the Pirates, took a foul ball off his hand. X-rays and all that stuff came back negative. Nothing is broken. But Dave Roberts did kind of admit that for the rest of the year, it's kind of just going to be a pain tolerance thing for Will Smith. I don't love that. Now, again, there's positives. He doesn't have to go on the IL. It doesn't seem like he needs any kind of surgery or anything. But when a manager comes out and says that, he's basically saying that Will's going to have to play through pain. And you guys know how I've talked about so many times you hear players after a season or during the season, whatever, struggling or working through an injury, and then that's kind of why you see guys' numbers fall off. Right now for the Chicago Cubs, Kyle Tucker, who's going to be the biggest free agent this offseason, he has been dealing with a couple of injuries. I think it's a wrist injury or maybe a calf, but his numbers have fallen off a lot, and clearly he doesn't look healthy. You guys know that I've talked about Teoscar and Tommy Edman. More Tommy Edman than Teoscar because Teoscar got injured in May, and he's been back for a long time now. Tommy Edman has been dealing with an ankle injury all year that's been reoccurring, and his numbers fell off mightily and I think that a lot of that was because of his ankle. So again, I don't want to mean to get on a tangent, but that's what can be a little scary about Will Smith is that, down the stretch of September into the postseason, he kind of is a no-show, and we're like thinking what happened to Will Smith, and it's because he's dealing with his hand injury. But looks like he'll be back. I don't know if he'll be back like in the Rocky series, game 1 or whatever. We'll see. But for the most part, it wasn't as bad as it could have been. Dalton Rushing. So, of course, a couple days later, Dalton Rushing fouls a ball off his leg. I think this was in game 1 of that series. Fouls a ball off his leg, immediately falls over, had to be helped off the field. So, it's kind of crazy sometimes when guys foul a ball off their leg. Sometimes guys foul it off, don't really see them get hurt. They just shake it off. And then there's some guys who break bones. I remember a couple years ago, Matt Carpenter of the Yankees was having a really crazy year, and then he fouled the ball off his foot, and he was done for the year. Broken bone in his foot. I was wondering if Dalton Rushing, because he fouled the ball off his leg, off his shin, and I thought it was the way he was getting carried off the field. I was like, oh my God, he just fractured his leg or something, his shin or something. Again, like Will Smith, it did come back more positive than it kind of looked at first, but he did go on the IL, and that's kind of been the only updates. I don't know. It'll just depend on how much better he feels. I don't mean to make it sound like it doesn't matter, but Rushing has been a backup catcher, so it's not too big of a blow. But obviously he throws well behind the plate. He's done a lot for Will Smith this year, so hopefully you get to see we'd like to see him come back. But if he doesn't come back, it's not the end of the world. Okay, so a couple of good things. The last kind of recent injury / not injury, Tyler Glasnow. Again, this just added into the craziness this week. Tyler Glasnow was supposed to start Friday against the Orioles. About 3 hours or 4 hours before the game, he got scratched. So for a good 30 minutes, I was panicking on Twitter, wondering what was the injury, or was it an injury. His last start, he did deal with a blister kind of thing on his thumb where his hand was bleeding. I was hopeful that was the case, or I was hopeful because Shohei ended up pitching for Glasnow. I was hopeful in the moment that it was more to do with Shohei trying to pitch on regular rest because he's also been dealing with a sickness. It ended up being back tightness. Again, didn't seem like it was a big deal, but you never know with Glasnow, unfortunately. Does look like he's going to start during the Rocky series. Right now, the way that the starters have been announced, there's actually Sheehan is scheduled to go Tuesday, Snell on Wednesday. So that means you would think Glasnow is going to pitch tonight against the Rockies. It just hasn't been announced yet. So, of course, you have that in the back of your mind. Next time we see Glasnow pitch, if it's tonight, you're just going to be looking at stuff to see how's his back feeling, and then how does he feel the next day, the next start. So it kind of creates a small little chain of effects. But one, it's not an arm injury or an elbow or anything like that. So that's good. It's just his back. Hopefully it's not really a big deal, and he'll be fine. So I think that'll be okay. Next, guys coming off the IL. Today against the Rockies, Max Muncy and Alex Vesia will be activated. So that's massive. Muncy's going to be huge for the lineup. Probably be slotted into third base, batting fifth right away. And Alex Vesia, nice quick IL timeline. I think it was only 2 weeks ago that he went on against the Reds. It was an oblique. He's going to quickly come off, go right back into the bullpen. That's nice. A couple other guys would be slotted down. Then one of the last injuries, Tommy Edman, will rejoin the Dodgers in this Rocky series. It doesn't look like it'll be tonight when Vesia and Muncy will be back, but probably the next day or then Wednesday. That's pretty much all the injuries. I'm not really going to get into any of the other ones. Sasaki has continued his rehab down in the minor leagues, but has continued to not really look that good. So, again, there's a really good chance he just finishes the year out there down in the minor leagues, and we don't see him until 2026, especially with how good the rotation's been. So there are going to be some interesting roster moves. I would imagine when Vesia, Muncy are activated, Justin Dean, the fourth outfielder who's been a defensive replacement, he will probably go down. And then in the bullpen, I'm actually not sure. Maybe because Robleski just pitched the other day, he'll be optioned just to create space for somebody. And then if Tommy Edman does get activated in a couple days, that will be interesting. That will be interesting to see what they do there, because if you look at the current roster, with all the guys that have come back, it kind of just leaves like someone has to be DFA'd or someone has to be moved, and that would be interesting because does that mean that what I've kind of been asking for a little bit now, Michael Conforto, does he get optioned? Because right now, Alex Freeland, he already went down, so then really the only other guy I guess could be, right now they do technically have the two, they do have two catchers on the roster, so Chucky Robinson that they recalled because technically Will Smith hasn't been playing, but he hasn't been off the roster, so he could, I guess, technically go down, or maybe they would want to send Kim. I really wouldn't mind if they DFA'd Conforto. We'll see. He's gotten this far where we're in almost mid-September and he's still on the team, so I don't know if that's going to happen. So let's get into all the other stuff. That's enough with the injuries. Muncy will be back. Vesia will be back. And then in a couple days, we'll see Tommy Edman. We'll see what happens. That's good. For the most part, the team is almost completely healthy, minus a couple of relievers, so that's pretty cool. So, like I said today, I'm just going to talk about a lot of the bad that's been going on. I've explained to you guys this before. I'm a Dodger fan. For those of you who don't know, I'm 25 years old, all right? I have been a baseball fan, a Dodger fan, watching baseball games basically since the late 2000s. My earliest memories of watching baseball are like 2008, 2009, 2010. So I grew up in the 2010s decade. That's like, I grew up I could remember the World Series every year watching it. Dodgers became good in 2013. They have been good every year since then. Never even missed the playoffs. Never had really had any down years. Their down years are like just years that they won low 90s games and lost in the first round. And I just want to say this because I know that there will be some fans who could hear this and think that that's BS. I am lucky to be a Dodger fan in this timeline, okay? There are other fans of other teams. I'm not trying to bash on anyone's team, but Pirates fans, Reds fans, I mean, even teams like the Cubs, like there are teams that, like I said, the Pirates, they made the playoffs in the mid-2010s, 3 straight years, and haven't made it since. The Detroit Tigers last year made the postseason for the first time in 10 years. The Angels haven't made it for over 10 years. The Cubs, who I even said, they made the postseason from 2015 to 2020, won a World Series, obviously, haven't made it since then. They're obviously not even comparable to those teams. When you even compare the Dodgers to other teams that have had a lot of success, like teams that do tend to be in the postseason every year, like the Yankees, like the Cardinals, teams like that, the Braves, obviously the Astros in this decade, teams like that, they're even better than those teams because the Yankees, who make the playoffs every year, they have had years where they missed in 2016 and 2023. They didn't make the playoffs those years. The Cardinals didn't make the postseason the last couple of years. The Braves, who have been incredibly consistent, a year ago they just barely snuck into the playoffs, and this year they're not even close. They're not going to make it. The Houston Astros are kind of the only exception, although they did not make the postseason one year. I think that was also 2016. The Dodgers have never even had that. When I think of down years in this run as a Dodger fan, I think of 2018. That was a year that they were not in first place for a lot of the year because they got off to a really bad start. They had a lot of injuries, and they snuck in and won the division at like the last second. They had to play 163 games that year. They just got hot at the end of the year and took advantage of the Diamondbacks, who fell apart that year, and then they just happened to win the division on the last day of the regular season. Other than that, the only other year that they didn't cruise to a division title was actually 2021, where they won 106 games. And the San Francisco Giants that year just happened to win 107. They were crazy. Hope I'm not getting off too far enough a tangent, but the point is, as Dodger fans, especially myself, I've basically ever since I was 13, they have made the playoffs every year, been good every year, had a legitimate chance to win the World Series every year. They didn't just sneak in and it was just, hey, pat on the back, you made it the postseason this year. No, every year they had a real chance. I understand that this is coming from the perspective of a fan who has high standards. Okay, I even have high standards that there are years that the Dodgers won games, 98 games, 100 games, and in my mind, I was like, wow, they had a light year. 2023 was one of those years, and I could even say 2024, where they won the World Series. 2023, they won 100 games that year, and that was coming off years where they won 111, 106, 106, 104. It was just 100 wins every single year, 100 plus. So in 2024, when they won the World Series last year, they won 98 games, which led the league. Nobody won 100 games. That was even a year. It sounds funny, but I was like, wow, they didn't have that, a crazy year by our standards. So I understand all that. I just wanted to lay that out. I've been trying to find a word to kind of sum up this team. It's been probably the most disappointing regular season team since 2018, but probably in this entire run, because like I said, that team finished hot. They got off to a bad start, and then they played really well basically from like June on to win the division. This team, it's been the opposite. The Dodgers were the best team in baseball all the way up to the 4th of July. You can look it up. They had the best offense in the game. They were doing what they could with their pitching with all the injuries. Guys had started to begin to come back at that time. But they still were in shambles with their pitching because of all the injuries. The offense was clicking. Shohei was doing what he does right now. Muncy had been one of the best hitters since May. Will Smith was having a career year. Freddie Freeman, up until that point, he hadn't really gotten super cold yet, and they were clicking offensively, beating a lot of good teams like the Yankees, like the Padres, other good teams. They were playing really well and taking advantage of beating bad teams like the White Sox and the Rockies. Ever since then, the Houston Astros came into town, swept the Dodgers. Dodgers then got swept by the Brewers. And ever since then, it's been a struggle. They've been a below 500 team. The offense hasn't been as good. The bullpen has still struggled at times. Now the pitching has gotten way better, of course. The offense has been nowhere near the same. The most probably maddening thing of this team, that's probably the word I would best use to describe this team and this year, is maddening. Because as of the last basically month, really more than that, they cannot beat bad teams for some reason. I mean, when they lost 2 out of 3 to the Padres a couple weeks ago, I was getting so excited because they were getting ready to face all these bad teams. And I thought, all right, they won the season series against the Padres. They technically have the division. They have a 1-game lead because of the tiebreaker. Now they're going to play a bunch of bad teams, and they're going to stack up a bunch of wins. They should create some space in the division, go for the 2 seed, all that kind of stuff. And ever since then, it's just not happened. When they played against the Pirates this week and got swept, or I should say last week, lifeless games. I mean, the only time they showed life was in that first game when Kershaw gave up a bunch of runs. They battled back, tied the game, gave it up again. The Pirates just kept getting 2-out hits, 2 strike hits. The next 2 games, just absolutely nothing on offense, with the exception of the very end of that 3rd game. And then I'll get into the 2 games in Baltimore. Dodgers go into Baltimore. Like I said, Shohei takes the mound on short notice. Not short rest, but short notice because Glasnow is supposed to start. He has been sick as of late. He, as in Shohei Ohtani. So he starts on short notice. So the Dodgers kind of had him on a pitch limit because he hadn't pitched in a little bit. So he wasn't going to go back to the full 5 innings thing. It was more like, at best, you're going to see 4 innings. He got through 3 2/3. Pitched really good. The stuff was even up more than it has been this year. He was almost averaging 100 miles an hour. Really gritty performance in that 4th inning that he got taken out. He allowed a leadoff base runner and a wild pitch, so the go-ahead run was on 3rd with no outs. Then he went on to strike out the next 2 guys, and then Bonda came in and got out of the inning. So the first game, like I said, Dodgers just no offense. They were facing Dean Kramer, who, again, had an ERA over 4. They're supposed to smoke him. He ended up getting taken out, but still, the guys coming in after that, Dodgers just did nothing. The only run was a Freddie Freeman home run. He ended up tying the game later in the game. They go into the 9th inning, tied 1-1, bottom of the 9th. Just got to get 3 outs to go to extras. Tanner Scott comes in. Since he's come off the IL, his velocity's actually ticked up a bit. He actually has looked pretty solid, minus giving up that home run to Corbin Carroll a week ago. We know the deal with Tanner Scott all year. He's been super disappointing. And like I've talked about, he's the number 1 hated player of the Dodger fans. Anytime he comes into the game, especially gives up runs, everybody goes crazy on Twitter. He was looking nasty. It was like a cruel moment because I was getting ready to make a video breakdown of him, give some numbers and stuff like that. I think he got a flyout and then a strikeout, or he might have actually struck out the first two guys. But he was getting a lot of swings and misses in that inning, a lot of uncomfortable swings, a lot of check swings on high fastballs. That's when you know Tanner Scott is looking good. He then has the top prospect, Samuel Basallo, at the plate, left-handed hitter for the Orioles. Again, a couple check swings, throwing hard, was feeling himself a little bit. Catcher sets up inside for a fastball. He throws it inside, 99 miles an hour. Basallo was sitting on it, turns on it, walk-off home run. That really sucked. That was super disappointing. But I didn't really put that on Tanner Scott. I know he gave up the home run, so of course it's on him. But that game was more on the offense. Dodgers left a ton of runners on base, just couldn't get anything started against the Orioles, who don't really have great pitching. Tanner Scott, again, like what felt cruel is that he was looking good in that inning, and the game kind of doesn't really fall on him. But of course, the last image of everyone's brain is that he gave up a home run. Again, I don't want to make excuses for Scott, but kind of just, he was looking so nasty. The slider was looking good. And again, just like what happened the week before with Corbin Carroll, he was just feeling himself with that fastball. And you got to give credit to Basallo. I mean, that's left on left. A guy who kind of has like a funky arm slot, throwing 99. And you're either going to get a nasty slider or a heater. So you got to pick. Either you're going to stick in there, you got to keep your nose in there. You got to stay in there on a guy throwing, left on left. You either got to be ready to get a slider out over the plate and not chase it or hit it the other way, or you got to be ready to catch up to the heater. It's a 50-50 shot. He picked right. He was ready to catch up to a heater. He got it, a hittable one inside, and he just turned on it. It's kind of just impressive hitting by him. Dodgers at that point losing 4 straight, just no offense. They go into Saturday night. Yamamoto is on the mound. At this point, I am super pissed. I'm almost like not even fully paying attention to the game. I just knew that they were winning. They ended up taking a 2-0 lead, made it 3-0. So obviously everybody knows now Yamamoto was pitching a no-hitter. I'll be honest, I was not locked in on the game earlier. I was so annoyed with them that I'm sure every fan has been through this where you're just like so pissed that you're just like, man, just wake me up when you win the game or lose the game. So I was like not really locked in. I was just, it was on in the background. I was like on my phone. I think it was the 6th or the 7th inning. It might have actually been the 7th. I did not realize he didn't give up a hit. I heard Steven Nelson, the broadcaster, say that. I didn't want to get too invested. Nothing is worse than when you see a guy throwing a no-hitter and then you're like, now you're getting excited for him to do it, to finish it, and then the guy gives up a hit. So I didn't even get that locked in on it until he got through 8. He got through 8 no-hit innings. Dodgers had a 2-0 lead, and then I think they added on in the 9th, or they had a 3-0 lead. So he gets through the 8th inning. The pitch count was actually in a good place. Once I realized he had a no-hitter in the 6th or the 7th, I was going through my brain, like, how many pitches does he need for him to be able to get sent back out there? Because we kind of know Dave Roberts with his history. If Yamamoto had a bunch of pitches, he's not going to send him out there. But the Orioles kind of helped him out throughout the 7th and the 8th, swinging at pitches, making early outs. And I think that when he got through 8, he was through 8 no-hit innings, and he might have had like exactly 100 pitches. And Yamamoto has thrown over 100 pitches a good amount, so not really worried about that. And he was just pounding the strike zone. He was still throwing like 98. So of course, Yamamoto gets through the 8th inning. So now I'm fully invested. Now I'm a big Yamamoto fan. He's really grown on me since he's been. I don't want to say grown on me because I've always loved him. I've just fallen in love with him ever since he became a Dodger. Big game pitcher, nasty, still young. I think he's going to get a Cy Young before he's done, but already as a top 10 pitcher, you could make the argument he's even closer to top 5. Probably not there yet, but he is certainly one of the 10 best pitchers. Just seems like a cool guy, really like him. He's the Dodgers ace. So all that's going through my mind. Would love to see him finish it off. And what it's kind of funny is they showed the graphic that the Dodgers have the most no-hitters thrown in baseball history, but they have not had many in the last few years. I mean, I know no-hitters are even more rare to come by nowadays, especially ones thrown by one pitcher because of the way the game is played. You don't really see complete games. But the last time they threw a no-hitter was 2018. That was a combined no-hitter. The last time they threw a no-hitter that was just one pitcher was Clayton Kershaw. That was 2014. I was 13 years old at the time. In a long time, obviously. So I was fully invested, fully, imagining the last out and all that stuff, which I normally don't do with no-hitters. I can't tell you how many times I get a notification that a guy's, threw 8 no-hit innings or whatever on another team, so I'll just tune in to see if he finishes it. There has been so many times that I will literally turn on the game on my phone. The first pitch I see, the guy gives up a hit, and I'm like, I literally just jinxed it. So I don't really get too invested, but I did with this. Yamamoto takes the mound in the 9th. He struck out the first guy, so I think that was his 10th strikeout. Then he got a fly out, 2 outs, and I was thinking, wow, he might actually get this no-hitter. Of course, we all know what happens now. He gave up a home run to Jackson Holliday. As soon as he hit it, you could tell it was gone. It actually didn't get out by that much. Seemed like a lot of people were pissed Paez didn't try to rob it, which I get. He should have gave a little bit of a better effort. But again, you're asking a guy to rob a home run, which rarely happens. Anyways, that sucked. Because at that point, you're thinking the Dodgers are going to win this game. And even with a win, you feel like you still got kicked in the nuts because you were so close to seeing a no-hitter. You were so invested. Everyone loves Yamamoto already, and he gave up that hit. That was like, wow, we're going to win a game and still feel shitty after the game. We all know what happens after that. He gets taken out of the game. Blake Trinan comes in, just needs to get 1 out. He gives up a double to Jeremiah Jackson. Then he proceeds to lose his command, walks the next 2 guys, basically throwing nothing close to a strike. Bases are now loaded. The winning run is in scoring position on second base. Just need to get 1 out. This felt like a troll by Dave Roberts, I'll be honest. He brings in Tanner Scott to get 1 out. He brings in the guy who's been getting killed all year by Dodger fans and by the media and by everyone. He's not had a good year. Just gave up a walk-off home run, not even probably 24 hours prior. He brings him in. He, of course, I could see it happen. I didn't predict it, but I swear I could just see it happening before it happened. He gives up a soft line drive, base hit to center field. 2 runs scored. The Dodgers get walked off. That was probably the most heartbroken I've ever felt after a regular season loss. I don't get too heartbroken nowadays. Now, of course, when a team, nothing's worse than like your team, losing by 1 run, bottom of the 9th, tying run on base, blah, 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 you lose. That happens. And I've watched a lot of baseball in my life to know you're going to lose heartbreaking games throughout the season. You're going to get blown out. You're going to lose a ton of games. I mean, one of the sayings in baseball goes, you're going to lose 50 games and you're going to win 50 games. What you do with the remaining games will determine your season. So I understand how the season goes. So I don't get too wrapped up in big-time losses. They hurt for 2 seconds after the game. You move on to the next one. Way that the last 2 months have gone, with the way the last couple weeks have gone, not being able to beat bad teams, with Tanner Scott being on the mound, that felt like a cruel baseball joke. You're 1 out away from a no-hitter. So you're 1 out away from winning the game, getting your first win in almost a week, first win of the week. You are 1 out away from getting that win. You're 1 out away from a no-hitter with your best pitcher on the mound, having a really good year, making a name for himself, all that. A guy that everybody is seeming to love, Yamamoto. He just seems like a great guy, great kid. He's only 27. You're 1 out away from that. One of the bigger highlights of the year, probably would be the biggest highlight of the regular season, is that no-hitter, because he was that dominant. It wasn't one of those no-hitters where it's a bunch of walks, or no-hitter is a no-hitter no matter what, but it wasn't one of those like 2 strikeout no-hitters where the team just happened to hit a bunch of pop-ups and ground outs. That still counts. I'm not saying anything like that, but It was a legit dominant performance, 10 strikeouts, dominant stuff, grinded through the little bit of the higher pitch count at the end, all that. It was getting close to this cool moment. And then not only do you not get the no-hitter, not only does it have you give up the no-hitter with 2 outs, so it's like you're 1 out away. If you're going to give up the no-hitter, just give it up in the 7th or the 8th or start off the 9th. So all that happens. Then, to make matters worse, you lose the game. You don't even win. You lose on a walk-off with 2 outs. You had a 3-0 lead that eventually became a 3-1 lead, and you just needed to get 1 out. You just needed 1 line drive hit at someone, 1 home run robbery, 1 anything to win the game, and you couldn't do that. That felt like a cruel joke. That felt like, wow, baseball gods are hating on me. And Tanner Scott, I forget if it was the night before when he gave up the walk-off home run, or if it was that night. I don't know which walk-off. He actually said it multiple times to the reporters, baseball hates me right now. Which I get what he's saying, but at the same time, it's like, dude, you're not pitching well, so, maybe you should just, it's not that baseball hates you, you're just not pitching well. I don't know. I don't get too wrapped up in comments from players and coaches afterwards. That's another thing. So stunned. I was sitting there when that 9th inning was, happening, when Trinan couldn't throw a strike and Scott came in, and like my heart was pounding like a playoff game. Like I was just like, please, for the love of God, win this game. Please, please, please. And then it's just one of those things where you're like, hey, we're going to win. We got a no-hitter going. All right, the no-hitter gets broken up. All right, we're still going to win at least. Yamamoto was dominant, whatever. And then all the walks happening, and you're like, there's no way, right? There's just no way they're going to actually play. So once they lose the game, one of my honestly first thoughts was like, where do we go from here? Are we witnessing a collapse? Is that what we're like in the middle of witnessing? Like, are we going to look back in 2 months and be like, wow, that second half was a collapse? Like, that 2025 will be remembered as the year the Dodgers were in first place and collapsed. Is that what we're witnessing? That was one of my first thoughts. Like, where are we going from here? You can't beat the Pirates. You get swept by them. You lose 2 out of 3 to the Orioles, and they're both heartbreakers. Yamamoto just gave you the best pitching performance of his career, basically, and you can't even win the game. Where do we go from here? That was my first thoughts. It's been 2 months that they've been bad, but just for whatever reason, they just have not been able to turn this around. It just feels like when the pitching is good, the offense does not show up, so you're forced to win a 1-0, 2-0 game or something like that. And then when the offense shows up, the pitching does get hit around. Like in that first Pirates game, Kershaw was getting blooped to death, couldn't get it out in that first inning, gave up 4 runs. The Dodgers battled back, ended up scoring, I think, 9 runs that night, or 7 runs. But the Pirates go on to score 9, and you lose 9-7. And you're like, wow, Shohei went deep. Mookie Betts had 2 hits in that game. The Dodgers had 12 hits. Will Smith had 3 hits. Teoscar, like a couple guys that have been struggling. Like they put together offense. Pages went deep. But then the Pirates, who have like one of the 3 worst offenses in baseball, put up 9 runs against you. Then the following 2 nights, you get shut out, and then you only score 3 runs, which were basically later in the game, which were like, garbage time. Which I know baseball doesn't have garbage time like basketball or football, but like that's what's maddening about this team the last 2 months. Because they have one of the better offenses in baseball. Obviously, it's not been like the last couple of months, but as a whole on the season, they have been. And then the last 2 months, they've had really good pitching, but it seems like there are some... it's rare to have it happen one night, one game. Like I said, the offense finally shows up, but then someone on the mound just gives it up, and then you're forced to win a football game. You're forced to win like a 9-10 game. And then when the pitching does show up, and Blake Snell pitches, 6 shutout innings, or Yamamoto, it's happened to him the most, pitches really well, then the offense doesn't show up, and now the bullpen is forced to try to shut down, the opposing lineup, and they're left no room for margin, and then you end up losing a 3-1 game. For the first time this season and in my life watching the Dodgers, I am genuinely concerned about, are we witnessing a collapse? A team that's going to blow it? We are witnessing the most disappointing team. I mean, there's been a lot of guys. Obviously, we know Mookie is kind of in like the forefront of that. But Mookie has saved a lot of his season the last month. If you go back and look at his numbers since August 5th, which entering today is 29 games, so literally an entire month, he has an OPS over 900. That is much closer to the Mookie that we know of old. Injuries, it's kind of been a perfect mix of injuries and then certain guys kind of falling off. Because you look at their numbers overall, and you think, okay, Shohei's going to win the MVP. Freddie Freeman has an OPS in the mid to high 800s. Will Smith has been the second best catcher in the game. Andy Paz has had a breakout year, but Teoscar Hernandez, we know that his defense has been bad. His bat has been bad for a really long time. And I actually dug into some of the numbers the other day. Teoscar has always been a guy who crushes left-handed pitching. And on the year, he still has an OPS well over 800 against left-handed pitching, which is really good. But if you actually dig into some of the numbers, since early June, I think it is, he has an OPS against left-handed pitching in the 500s. His season OPS against left-handed pitching has been mostly because of the first 2 months. He had an OPS, if you break down the numbers, in the first half, his OPS against left-handers was over 1,000. In the second half, it's like in the 500s. He's kind of been saved by early in the year being the best hitter against lefties in the game outside of Paul Goldschmidt. Ever since then, not as good. Now, he also has not faced a ton of lefties, because if you go and look at his numbers against left-handed pitching, he actually doesn't even qualify. And since June, he has not had a lot of plate appearances. So him being injured, and it's just kind of been the luck of the season, I guess, and luck of the draw. They haven't faced a ton of lefties for some reason. So that's also been part of it. I think if he faced a little bit more lefties, they would be better. But Teoscar falling off as bad as he has been a huge disappointment. Obviously, Conforto being absolutely horrible. And then Max Muncy kind of being dinged up a couple times has been a really huge issue too, because when he's been in there, the Dodgers have been amazing. He's missed time he missed obviously basically all of July, and then he missed most of August once he came back. Now he's going to come back in September. Hopefully he can stay healthy for the rest of the year. Hopefully he can do what he did in August, because he came off the IL and it was no time was missed. He locked in and looked great right away. And then another guy's been Tommy Edman, who, again, in April was looking incredible. He was playing second base and center field. Both defensively, he was playing really good. And he was hitting really good. Ever since then, he fell off, got injured. He looks like he's going to come back and play center field, which should help the Dodgers defense. I hope for the love of God that Dave Roberts puts Tommy Edman in center, Andy Pages in right, and Teoscar in left. Put him in left field. I better not see later this week a lineup and a defensive alignment that has Teoscar in right and Pages in left. I get it. They're both corner spots, and I get Teoscar's played there all year. But he also played left field all of last year, and it's not that hard. He can play left field. He can handle it. Andy Pages, your best defensive center fielder, or your best defensive outfielder, I should say, on the season, in right field. Put Tommy Edman in center, who is the fastest of them, and covers a lot of ground. Don't do something stupid and put Teoscar in right, who has literally been the worst defensive outfielder in the game, pretty much. Now, it is time for Rational Nick, okay? And I am more rational than I am emotional, so all of that was the dark thoughts, the bad thoughts going through my brain. Now I will answer the question, do I think the Dodgers are going through a collapse? And do I think that they will collapse? No, I don't think they will. Do I think they will miss out on the playoffs? No, I don't think that's going to happen. Do I think that they're going to win the division? Yes, I do. Now, do I think that they're going to end up with the 2 seed, which would give them a bye? At this point, no. I don't think there is zero chance of that. They finally won Sunday afternoon, their first win of the week, and simultaneously the Phillies lost. So their lead in the Phillies' lead in the 2 seed above the Dodgers is 4 games. It was 5 games a day ago. Now it's 4. The Phillies are going to play the Mets this week. 4 games against the Mets. The Mets actually swept them 2 weeks ago. So the battle for the 2 seed has been crazy because the Dodgers 2 weeks ago actually took the lead for the 2 seed over the Phillies because they got swept by the Mets. Like I said, the Dodgers swept the Reds. Immediately from then, the Dodgers would go on to go 2-7, I think, or I think 1-7, and then the Phillies went 7-2. The complete opposite. The Dodgers lost all their games. The Phillies won all of them. So it went from having a half-game lead to the complete opposite, and now you have a 5-game lead, and now you almost have no shot of the 2 seed. If I was a betting man, I would bet the Dodgers are the 3 seed, and they win the division. They're the 3 seed, and they play either the Padres or the Mets in the wild card round at home. There is still a chance, mainly because the Dodgers do play the Phillies, so you have a chance to directly affect the standings by beating them, which means you gain a full game on them. You don't have to wait for them to lose a game, someone else beat them, blah, blah, blah. That's in a week. Right now, where we stand is Monday, September 8th. There is currently 19 games left to play in the Dodger season. They have 79 wins on the year. So if you do the math, they're probably going to be like a 90-win team. If they got really hot, they could win 92, 93, 94 games. But with how they played lately, it would not be smart to assume that. Now, if you're optimistic, which I am, and they could get hot, they play the Colorado Rockies this week, 3 games. Then they play the San Francisco Giants this weekend in San Fran, 3 games. The Giants have been really hot as of late, although I think they lost their last 2 games to the Rockies, but they've been really good as of late. Kind of like put themselves back in a playoff position. Week from today, next week, they play the Phillies. That's the last biggest, series of the year. Obviously, every series right now is important, but so how can they get this 2 seed? Well, you need the Mets to beat the Phillies at this point. It's a 4-game lead in division. What the Dodgers need to do is sweep the Rockies. Okay? I don't want to disrespect the Rockies. They just took 2 games from the Dodgers a couple weeks ago. The Dodgers split 2 games with them in a 4-game set. Sweep the Rockies. Okay? If you win 2 out of 3, will I kill you? No, because that's an improvement from the last few weeks. But sweep the Rockies. You are now almost fully healthy. We'll see if Will Smith is actually in there. But we should see Max Muncy, and then we'll probably see Tommy Edman for 1 of maybe 2 of the games. Sweep the Rockies. You're at home. You're one of the best teams at home. You are playing the Rockies. I do not want to get on here and talk about a 2-game winning 2 out of 3 from the Rockies, or God forbid you lose 2 out of 3. And if they lose 2 out of 3 or something worse than that, I don't know what. Okay? Sweep the Rockies. Take advantage of a bad team. You play that. They're the last really bad team. Okay, they play the Giants. After that, the Giants are around 500, but they've been hot. Then you play the Phillies. What you need to do is take care of business this week. The Dodgers need to go 5-1 this week. They play 6 games, 3 against the Rockies, 3 against the Giants. I will give you 1 loss to the Giants because they've been hot. Sweep the Rockies, go to Oracle, and win 2 out of those 3. What you need to happen is for the Phillies to lose a few games to the Mets. If next Monday, going into that series, I should be able to preview it. When I preview that series, if the Dodgers are 3-2 games behind the Phillies, they have a shot at the 2 seed. If they can get it down to 2, win that series, you can actually come out of it tied. If you sweep, you can literally take the lead. I know it's not on the Dodgers' mind. I mean, it is, but just going out and winning every game is their, what's on their mind right now. That's what they would need to do. So they got to take care of business this week. We'll see what happens with this week, because right now, like I said, it's not been announced if Glasnow will pitch Monday. Will Smith, like I said, we don't really know yet what's going on with him so far. And Rortvert has been starting. Hopefully Will can get in there. I would love to see a lineup that has Max Muncy and Will Smith in it, and then eventually Tommy Edman. We'll see what happens with Conforto. I mean, I would love to see a lineup today with Muncy in there. I mean, if Will Smith is in there, that'd be great, but we'll see. If it could be like Shohei, Mookie, with the two lefties, Muncy and Freeman, they probably would go Freeman third, Teoscar fourth, Muncy fifth, and then maybe Pages 6, Call 7, and then I guess Kim, and then Rortvert. I would love to see that lineup. Like, I really hope Conforto's days are numbered. We will see. We're so late in the year that they might just ride it out and just, hey, whatever we get from him is great, but if not, whatever. That's pretty much all I have for you guys today. I hope that I didn't bring you down too much. I hope that I didn't, make you too depressed or anything like that. I'm just trying to be honest. It's been a tough stretch for the Dodgers, but 19 games left. And if you were going to ask me, do I think the Dodgers can still win the division, get the 2 seed, whatever, make a run in the playoffs, win the World Series? I can. The Dodgers end up winning 92 games this year. They won 98 last year, and they got hot in the playoffs. That's really what it's all about. There's 19 games left to go. Shohei's playing great. Mookie's is playing the best he's played all year. Freddie Freeman's been raking since late July. Will Smith's had the best season of his career. Muncy's going to come back. I wouldn't be shocked if he came back and just started raking again. Go and look at his numbers since May, late May, early May, mid-May. He has an OPS plus like over 200. This offense can carry them to another World Series. Look at their pitching staff. They're going to have better pitching this October than they had last year. Last year, they won the World Series with Jack Flaherty, Yamamoto, Walker Buehler, and that's it. I mean, Yamamoto, who wasn't even built up, Jack Flaherty, who was really good for them, but he was super inconsistent in the playoffs. He would either get rocked or be dominant. And then Walker Buehler had the worst season of his career at that point, up until this year. That's how they won the World Series. Obviously, they had a good bullpen and all that stuff, but they're going to have better pitching this October. So you just got to turn it around, man. Like, you got to have some balls. You got to like, go in there with the mindset, if we don't sweep the Rockies, then what the hell's, like, what's wrong with us? You got to sweep the Rockies. You got to beat the Giants. And then next week going into Philly, that is, your seeding is on the line right there. So, as always, thank you guys for listening. It's been a tough stretch, but with 19 games left to go, the Dodgers could play their best 19-game stretch of the year. Let's see. It's right there. They can do it. So it starts tonight with hopefully Glasnow on the mound, Muncy in the lineup. We'll see. I think they're gonna play better, but you got to do it. I can't come on here and tell you what you got to do. You got to beat the Rockies. You got to sweep them this week. I don't want to talk about a 2 out of 3 series win. Sweep the Rockies. Sweep them. All right. Thank you guys so much for listening. As always, you can get this podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on social media at Talking Blue Pod. Follow myself at Talking Blue Nick. And on Reddit at competitive-week8715. We will be back to review this series. And then, as well, we'll review the Giants series this weekend. Hopefully, it's talking about a 6-0, a 5-1 week. Thank you guys so much for listening.